In this lesson, we're going to be modeling the balustrade and elements on the terrace. So if you had looked at the lesson where we did the spiral stair that is inside the central tower, you would remember that we used the AEC railing tool, which is what you see open on the side here, when we selected that spline, which was the railing path. We're going to do a slightly different technique for this one. It's a lot easier than that. We're going to isolate the upper level floor plan, and in the top view we're going to start drawing a glass balustrade. So let's choose glass as our current layer. Then let's choose a spline to start drawing, and I'm going to now outline the outside of this glass balustrade. So this object now, we can add a few modifiers to it. We can extrude it up by 1 meter. We can shell it internally by 2 centimeters, depending on the thickness of that glass. And the other thing that we want to do is, for more realism, let's add a couple of panels to our glass balustrade. So what we can do here is, with the crossing selection, we can choose these edges, we can right click and then connect them a few times until we see that the panels look correct. So not too many, not too few, about 5 should do it. And then selecting including the corners, let's now go and right click and chamfer that. I think about 1 centimeter should be fine, so a gap of 10 millimeters. And then let's select the polys that have now been created through the chamfering. Once those are selected, you can hit delete on your keyboard, and when you look at your object, you're now going to have a neatly done glass balustrade that has nice 1 centimeter gaps. And this one can be made slightly bigger, so you can go back to your editable poly and you can just drag this out ever so slightly until you see a clear gap. Now if you want to add a handrail to the top, all you need to do is copy this object, so Control V, make a copy, move that copy up by 1 meter, and instead of all of these modifiers, we can delete these and instead add a sweep modifier, so SW, enter, and here you can just set up your modifier height and width to be the size of the handrail that you would like to use. So let's say it can be 10 centimeters wide by 25, and you can even give it a corner radius if you want that level of detail. So this can now be changed from a layer of glass to frames, but in our design I think that I would want a much cleaner architecture, so I'm just going to choose a extremely thin 0.01 centimeter by 0.03 centimeter. So this is just going to be a tiny stainless steel capping that is going to be lining the top of the glass edge, just to basically protect the glass edge. We don't even need it though. There are plenty of glass balustrades that are just pure glass and they look fantastic. So we can choose to delete that later once we start rendering and we can see what it's looking like. Let's just change the layer to frames. And let's change the color to be by layer so we can clearly see the difference. So now let's start working on this lap pool that we have on our terrace. The idea is that this is a solid wall which basically will house the pump and all of that, and the entire side of the pool will have a glass edge to it as well, so that you can look right inside the swimming pool and get quite an awesome feeling as you are sitting on your terrace here. So let's start by drawing a spline to make the edges of the walls. So we're going to choose the wall layer, and same process as always, let's go and outline the edge. And here we couldn't snap onto anything since there wasn't an endpoint there, so I need to take the X coordinate from this point and paste it into here, and then just move this in plan into the right position. I can then extrude this upwards, and I can look in my front view to see how high that needs to be. Let's have a look at the side view and see if that gives us any more information. I can see that I can pull it up to 1.3 meters, which is what that side view is showing me. When I speak about the side view, I'm talking about this elevation that we have here. So that pool can be seen here. This is the balustrade that we've just done, and this higher area is going to be the pool. And you can see as well from this that the wall that is behind here doesn't actually exist on this upper level. So we basically need to start working on all of these walls to basically bring them to the right height and to make them the right shape. So I'm going to choose all of this, and I'm going to now go and modify the editable poly, which is sitting just underneath the editable, or at least underneath the shell. So now I've selected all of these edges. I can choose ring just to make sure that I go through all of them. Once all of that is selected, I'm just going to do it manually. Right click, connect. You can see that there's a little bit of a dip happening here because of that notch. So let's just control click the vertex and align everything vertically by making it planar in Z. Now I'm going to move it downwards until I get to this height, and that's going to be 7.5, I think it is. Let's just have a look in our side view. I think it's going to be slightly more than 7.5. It's going to be 7.55. There we go. And thereafter we're going to start cutting even more. We need to trim it down this way, so same process. Connect, move that connected line across without your snaps. And in the side view, let's just align that. So this will need to have some editing done after the shell is activated. So I'll show you what I mean by that very shortly. What I want to do though is just keep adding more edges until I have this entire contour of the building covered. And I'm going to do this quite quickly and then modify it later on to basically, once I have the shell activated, I'm going to just go and do the final tweaks to get everything in the right position. So now I'm just going to move these edges down slightly. I'm going to lock my selection using spacebar or hitting that, moving everything down so it's sitting just underneath this roof slab. And then I'm going to start deleting all of these polys that I don't want, namely those, this one here, and this one here. So that all gets deleted. We turn on our shell, and then above the shell we're going to add another editable poly where we can go and fine tweak these areas where we need to have this higher point. So we can basically take this edge, move it all the way to there, and the same thing will happen here at the front nose of the building. And you can also go in and just align these edges, and if you need to, you can also do some local make planar actions as well. So once this is all neatened up, you can also use your snaps in perspective view. It'll be much easier to do that. You can now go and add the glass balustrade, or not balustrade but side to the pool. If you like, you can also add a floor to the pool, which should be done. So let's go and do that by adding a plane object, and I'm going to snap it into this corner, basically from that corner to this one. I'm going to undo my width and length segments, and I'm going to move this up ever so slightly. I'm doing this all by eye, no problem there. Convert to editable poly, and I'm going to just take this edge and slide it down slightly until it is at the right height, 6.2, which is the height of the terrace itself. Then I can take this edge, right click, connect, and now I'm going to be working on the actual pool itself. So I'm going to take that edge, extrude it up ever so slightly, and then making the balustrade, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge, just selecting it, and then I'm going to make a spline out of that. So here you can just find create shape from selection, linear, since it's just a ordinary straight line. Select that, and here you can do the same thing that you've done earlier. You can extrude by 1 meter, or by the height that you need to for the depth of the pool. And you can shell it by 2 centimeters. This one might be a lot thicker because it is the actual piece of glass that is holding back all of the water. And then just don't forget to change the layer to glass, and if you want to be neat, then choose the color to be by layer. Also, if you want to preview things with slight opacity, you can just type in Alt X, and that will give you transparency to those objects. That's a nice way just to preview transparency of glass without actually changing your materials whatsoever. So that brings us to the end of this lesson. What we'd done is we had created this balustrade. We had looked at how we can copy splines and then just change the modifiers on them to go from the balustrade glazing to the handrail. And we had also looked at how we modify all of the walls by basically just using the editable poly and working on the 2D object level so that we get all of those refinements into place. So what I'm going to do now, just before the next lesson, there is a planter element which is here. So I'm going to model that planter just exactly in the same way that I had done this and all of these elements here. So nothing will be new there. And what we will do in the next lesson is work on the pool area, which is going to be quite similar to what we have done here. So we're going to finish that up, and once we're ready with all of that, then we can start texturing our building. The other thing, just as a side note, I will also add in the roof slab of this, which is just an ordinary rectangle. You can even model it as a box and or even a flat plane, since you'll only be looking at it from the top here. So all of that will be done before the next lesson, and then we can start modeling up our pool element.